Good evening. Welcome to the Methacton School Board's June 25th meeting. Please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started this evening, the board is going to take a moment for a short executive session. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, I apologize for the delay, but moving on, by way of announcement.
Mrs. Petroskas, the law states that you have to announce the purpose of the executive session either prior to or immediately after.
If you would let me continue, that's just what I'll do. On June 18th, immediately following our work session at Skyview Upper Elementary, we met in executive session to interview yet another solicitor candidate. We had a discussion relative to the Sunshine Law. We had a discussion surrounding the administrative salary adjustments, and we also had a discussion surrounding a student issue that was possible litigation. We just returned from another executive session where we had a discussion surrounding teacher negotiations and an employee issue update. As far as attendance, all board members are present with the exception of Mark O'Neill. Moving on to recognition of guests and scheduled speakers. Dr. Miller?
We have no guests or scheduled speakers.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to reports. Finance, Mr. Nascimento.
No Finance Committee meeting this month, so nothing to report. Stuart, anything you want to cover now, or?
Thank you. Policy, Mrs. Shackelford.
Dr. Miller, Mrs. Woodring, and myself met at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 18th, and reviewed the following policies which are on the agenda tonight for a first read. The following policies were revised by PSBA to include special education, referral, and reporting requirements. They are 103.1, non-discrimination, 113.1, discipline of students with disabilities, 113.2, behavior support, 218, student discipline, 218.1, weapons, 218.2, terroristic threats, 222 is tobacco, which deals with students, 227, controlled substances, 323, tobacco for district employees, 351, drug and substance abuse, 805, emergency preparedness, 805.1, relations with law enforcement, 907, public attendance at school events, 909, municipal government relations. Policy 349, which covers bullying and cyberbullying, is a new policy for district employees. Board Policy 003 was changed to add that the board will review board policies under Section 000, local board procedures, every 2 years. Policy 006.2, attendance at meetings via electronic communications. 007, policy manual access. 008, organization chart were reviewed and had no changes. Of the 15 board policies that the policy committee committed to review, 9 policies either had no changes or have been or are on the agenda for a first or second read. Policy 006.1, broadcasting meetings, will be on the agenda for discussion at the July 23rd board meeting, along with policies 004.1, student board members, 005, organization, 009, censure, 011, standards, code of conduct, and 012, civility. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to property, Mr. Phillips.
I have nothing to report other than keep an eye on Worcester Township for the meeting nights when the lights in the fields come up.
Thank you. Technology, Mr. Roth.
Thank you. Previous to this meeting, we did have a technology committee meeting. Troy went over a bunch of different things on the agenda, of which I'll highlight a couple of them. One of which is the hardware core infrastructure. We are continuing the upgrades of our network switch systems. We're looking at other equipment as per recommendation by the board members, specifically with Mark, and also trying to find out some use of some software to help us with right-to-know requests. There's some really good tools out there that would help the district in these requests to make them more efficiently done quickly, and also help with the administration and searching for the data that's needed to fill these requests. We're also working on the Mets Connect update, and it basically putting in puts our standards into the K through 8, and they're really working on this a lot. One of the things we're trying to do is the future of the usage of our smart boards within the classrooms, and the use of mobile devices and how we can integrate mobile devices such as iPads with the use of the smart boards. As mobile devices become more prevalent in the classrooms and with more curriculum, we clearly need to use the technology we have in place along with this new technology. So that's what we're working on now. And one more item is, and it's kind of a big one, is we're going to be rolling out a new piece of software called School Messenger. The School Messenger system will actually replace the Alert Now and eAlert systems that we're currently using. The contract for Alert Now is up, and we're going to be moving to this new system, which will give us a boatload of new features that far surpass Alert Now and the eAlert systems. Technology department is currently migrating to the School Messenger system, and we'll give the district a better feature set. Also, it has a lot of different things. I mean, even creating apps for use on mobile devices so that parents and will have better access to portals for the school district to get information from the school district. So that's something that we're working on. I'm not exactly sure of the launch date of that, but I know that will be forthcoming. That's it for my report right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the North Monco Technical Career Center, Mrs. Woodring and Mr. Nascimento.
Thank you. Last month, junior and senior cosmetology students received a visit from Tommy Wilkins, who is the Director of Community Education for Laurel House, a Montgomery County agency that provides support for victims of domestic violence. North Montco Technical Career Center teacher Nicole Lucas and Ms. Wilkins impressed upon the students the importance of recognizing signs and symptoms of domestic violence and the need to raise community awareness. I attended Student Recognition Night on June 3rd at the North Penn High School, where the Career Center students were acknowledged for their specific technical competencies, and our Methacton students did us proud, receiving several special awards. We met as a JOC on June 17th when we approved a number of personnel actions to carry through the summer. We approved some salary adjustments for administrative staff and approved the JOC meeting schedule for the 13-14 school year. We'll take July off, and our next meeting is August 19th. And that's my report.
Thank you. Moving on to the intermediate unit, Mr. Jones.
Yes, I have no report this month. I was on vacation when they had the meeting, so I have another one tomorrow night.
I have legislative. Last Wednesday evening, I attended the Montgomery County School Directors Legislative Committee. As you all know, it's very, very busy in Harrisburg right now. House Bill 618, which is an amendment to the current charter law school, will institute a new tuition calculation that does not include the pension contributions or the food service, so this would avoid the double dipping, as it's been referred to. It also establishes a commission to review current funding system and to make recommendations for changes on that funding. There appears to be enough votes to carry this, but Representative Mike Terzi has deferred action pending other bills. There's a huge charter school lobby here, so it's hopeful. In fact, an email came out today asking everyone to call this representative and ask him to please vote on this and move this forward. Of course, another big issue for us here in the school district is the PSERS reform. House Bill 1350 is the governor's plan that would allow future employees to be part of a defined contribution, and the current employees would remain with a defined benefit. Senator Brown proposed an amendment to this House bill. It's Senate Bill 922, which pretty much mirrors the government's bill, and where it would keep a defined benefit for current employees and not begin a defined contribution for new employees until 7/1/15. As we know, last week this was all voted down, so PSER reform is kind of up in the air right now. The governor pretty much had 3 initiatives this year things that he wanted to get done. That was the liquor privatization, transportation, and pension reform. It's beginning to look now like none of that's going to happen, maybe the pension reform, and so it looks like the only initiative he has left is to complete his budget by 6:30, and hopefully that'll happen. And that completes my report on legislation, and we'll move on to community liaisons, Mrs. Barone and Mr. Roth.
I do not have a report for Lower Providence today.
I really don't have a report for Worcester, other than that work continues behind the scenes, I guess, on the field projects. Thanks.
Mrs. Barone, home and school?
I do not have one for home and school either, since school is out and all the kids are running free somewhere.
Running free or running wild?
We have no student board reps here this evening. Do you have a report for them, Dr. Miller?
I do not.
Okay, then we can move on to your report, Superintendent.
I do not have a report. In consideration of the length of the meeting, I've decided to forego my report.
Okay,
It's
that
going to
sounds
be a
good.
fairly long meeting.
Okay, so then we'll move on to public comment on board action items. This is the time for public to comment on any item we'll be voting on this evening. Do I have any comments? Mr. Andrews.
John Andrews, Lower Providence. On the list of bills, there's several for the Times Herald totaling $100 each, and then there's one for $925 for the Daily Local News for advertising. I'd like some detail on that. And with regard to the refunds of many AP exam charges, aren't those related to college rather than public education? Do our private school students get similar methactin refunds? There's a bill from an outfit called Roth Florist. I don't think that's a local business, or is this a version of nepotism? Will Mr. Roth abstain or explain the bill? Our hiring of new employees, I'd like an explanation for the need for another special ed teacher. I'm sure it's out there, but I'd like to hear it. And with regard to the solicitor hirings, there was an agenda yesterday that had one of the rates. Today's agenda on the website had some changes, and it lacks rates. With regard to the budget, I think that we need more transparency, such as which 6 teaching positions are to be eliminated. The public has not heard that. And how is the next MEA contract factored in? Not a word of any negotiation detail has been spoken to the public, aside from comments by the MEA co-president. Couldn't we at least hear what your goals are? And several of the public have already spoken of excess capacity and excess teachers. In response, you are all mum as cadavers. No public dialogue and response is just plain wrong and beyond rude. Do you think of your public as just a bunch of outcasts infected with facts and reasoning? I think some of these questions deserve answers. Thank you.
Mr. Andrews, if you'll submit your questions, we'll have an answer to them next month. Any other public comment this evening? Mrs. Alba.
Candy Alaba, tonight you're going to be voting on a couple issues that were discussed at last week's school board meeting. And one is the copiers and hiring a special counsel. And there was a great discussion about it. And my issue is the fact that that school board meeting is not broadcast. And a lot of information is given out at that board meeting the week before you vote. So when you take a vote tonight, a lot of the public that sees this meeting is not privy to the discussion that was made. And at the beginning of the school year, you vote on your calendar, which you vote on 2 meetings. Even though that's a work session, it's still a regularly scheduled school board meeting, like this is. So, I mean, I don't know why there needs to be any more discussion about broadcasting that meeting too. I mean, last month, Dr. Miller gave a presentation on the budget, went into detail, and then the following week, that wasn't. I mean, I think it's remiss that the public is kind of doesn't get all the information that the people get that are at the work session. So I know, since I was fortunate enough to attend the policy committee meeting, it should be but it is a regular meeting. I mean, you have 3 issues or at least 2 issues you're voting on tonight. And my other question is, I know you were planning on voting on special counsel, but then I saw 2 other votes that you're taking that wasn't discussed last week. So I was just curious, why that was added on. But I think as far as broadcasting the work session, you just need to broadcast. It's a regular meeting. And the board will be more open and transparent. And information will get out there so the next week, the people that watch will be informed on the vote that you're taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Brian Earnshaw from Lower Providence. Just a few comments on the budget you'll be voting on tonight. First, thanks to Dr. Miller and Mr. Whiteleather for all your work. I know you both came in midstream in the process, and I know that's not easy, and appreciate where you got us to today. The one thing in the budget is the use of the fund balance, so I think nearly $600,000 now. Back in the October 2012 Finance Committee meeting, your predecessor, Mr. McCall, I believe, spoke to concerns about that, and as a result of using the fund balance to balance the budget, it gave us a negative outlook on our credit rating. And I think we all know what's going to happen if we get downgraded. We're already spending 10% of the budget on debt service. If our credit rating gets downgraded, that could go even higher. We spend over $10 million a year now on paying our debt service. Mr. Whiteleather also talked about, at the May 14th meeting, about one of the 2 of the district's goals in the budget process should be to reduce the use of the fund balance and increase our fund balance savings. He presented a $3 million deficit as far as where he thinks we need to be. And using $600,000 next year sends us even deeper into the hole. In addition, I'll remind the board of its own policy, which states the goal shall be to use excess fund balance for non-recurring expenditures, not normal operating costs. We're using it for normal operating costs. So really a lot of concerns there. A couple of items in the budget that really didn't get much discussion. There's another $500,000 for Shannondale on that property tax appeal. I think at the end of this fiscal year, we'll be up to, $2 million? 1.5. There's another $175,000 in legal expenses. I think we spent about $250,000 this year. And there's also one-time savings that's going to make next year's budget even more challenging. There is, I think, about $800,000 in net savings from teacher retirements. That probably won't recur in the next fiscal year. And there's also another $1 million from bond refinancing savings that will likely not recur next year. So short term, the budget balance is less than a 2% tax increase. Next year is going to be even tougher. I don't envy you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? Okay, there being none, I'll move on to board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the board meeting minutes of May 14th and May 21st? Do I have a motion? Mr. Phillips, second? Mrs. Barone? All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to fiscal items. Mr. Whiteleather.
Thank you. A few items on for this evening. Item 9.1 is the list of bills for approval. Item 9.2 is Treasurer's Report. 9.3 is our annual homestead farmstead resolution. This pertains to the gaming funds that are provided from the state to each and every school district. In our case, our total dollar amount for the gaming funds totals $1,822,298 and all important 59 cents, equating to a average tax reduction of $215.32. That amount is actually slightly down from this current year, where we received $1.88 million. So that is on for approval. Item 9.4 is the allowance of both residential and also commercial properties to pay their real estate taxes in installments. That again is an annual requirement for us to approve. 9.5 is our list of banks that we do business with, again on for annual approval. 9.6 is the copier MFP award, which we spoke about at the last meeting, last Tuesday. The recommended award is to Fraser, who was the low of the 4 companies who submitted proposals, and is on for recommended approval this evening. 9.7, we have a couple of bond funds that still have remaining dollars in them. In speaking with our auditor, we are allowed to essentially close those accounts and transfer all of the remaining funds into our capital projects account. And that simply just streamlines and cleans that up for purposes of paying future capital needs across the district. 9.8 is an annual approval of our insurance carriers for everything from general liability through workers' compensation and school leaders liability. We do have an increase of about $96,000 from current year. The majority of that increase is associated with workers' compensation, which is almost $50,000 increase. Our package liability, which is just a reflection of the current environment out there, is about a $30,000 increase, and school leaders liability is up $10,000. Those reflect the majority of the increase, but each one is detailed as listed there on item 9.8. 9.9 is our power supply coordination agreement. Probably sounds a little confusing, but basically what that is we participate in a consortium with Montgomery County Intermediate Unit for purchasing electricity. That's been very advantageous for the school districts. I spoke about that before. We've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars by purchasing through the consortium through the last 3 years that we've been with the consortium. As we come up for renewal, it would be the recommendation of administration to, again, contract with the consortium for electrical needs for the next 3 years. Item 9.10, tech ed renovation. Dr. Miller spoke about this at the last meeting with the associated cost of $59,000 for the renovations as he spoke about. Did you want me to speak about council, or did you want to do those?
Take those.
Okay.
Special counsel, we talked about John Ellison or Reed Smith as special insurance counsel for the Malik Van Horn case. Because both of the counsels we now have are being paid by insurance companies, we need someone to review the insurance company's petitions. I just got raised, just got them today, so I'll give them to you. There are 3 people who will be working on this. The primary work will be done by an associate attorney by the name of Angelucci at a a rate of $260 an hour. The paralegal rate is $195 an hour, and John Ellison's rate, careful of the sticker shot here, $625 an hour. He tells me the lion's share of the work is being done by the associate. Better, he's right. I have talked to him, and we're going to talk about how many hours he's going to spend on this. I'm very sure it's too many. One or two. 912 is the appointment of Sweet Stephen Katz Williams as special counsel for matters regarding pupil services, special ed, student disability, and the finishing up of the collective bargaining that is currently going on with the MEA. And then 913 is appointment of the school solicitor, Michelle Bartle-Dooley, Frank Bartle, who is here with us this evening, ready to take a seat. And he'll be handling everything else. All of your school law, construction, personnel, HR, all of that stuff. And again, Sweet Stephen Katz Williams will be handling the rest of the collective bargaining once that's finished up. We then, and we'll talk about this as we get to them, but final budget adoption for 13-14. It has not changed since our discussion with you last week. We are still at $95,248,073 with a property tax increase of 1.85%. And then we have all the approval of the taxes to support that budget. So.
Okay, why don't we take, unless there's any objections, 9.1 through 9.10. So do I have a motion to approve under fiscal items 9.1 through 9.10?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Mrs. Braun?
Hang on a minute.
Okay.
I think you probably want to deal with 9.1 separately.
Okay.
I think Mr. Roth wants to abstain. Yep.
Okay. Let's start all over again. Do I have a motion to...
I'll amend my motion that we exclude 9.1, we break that
Very
out
good.
from...
So 9.2 to 9.10.
So 9.2 to 9.10.
Thank you. So let's do that first. All in favor, under fiscal items, item 9.2 through 9.10.
Can we have some discussion?
Yes, I'm sorry. We can.
If we go back to 9.8, Stuart? Yes. I mean, some of them, I know what they are. What is commercial package coverage?
That basically covers all of our buildings, the contents within the buildings, any type of damage or something that would occur for that.
I'm thinking of a package, I mean, commercial package coverage. Okay, so it's a building, all right.
Building and the contents within the buildings.
Okay, and commercial crime coverage?
That relates anything to technology, any type of, somebody would hack in and steal information off of our network and use that for some less than legal purpose.
Now, this may be a dumb...
Moves into the area, the size.
Right. Now, this may be a stupid question, but this carrier is the Netherlands. Are they in the Netherlands or are they in the United States? Where are they?
Most of these insurance companies of any size are international, but all have representation here in the States. Our insurance agent goes out and solicits multiple proposals from multiple vendors in order for us to look at, see which companies are the most financially stable, give us the best rates, have the most coverages available. And that process basically goes over the couple of months that they have to do that. But all of these companies are evaluated on multiple criteria, including we're obviously not dealing with a company that may be overseas and kind of questionable as to whether or not they would actually provide us with a benefit if we would have a claim.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Wait, I just want to ask one question about 9.1.
We're not voting on 9-1. 9-2,
2 through 9-10.
2 to 10. We'll go back to 9.
because we,
No, we'll go to 15. We'll go back to 1.
Hey, we'll do 11.
I'm sorry?
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Okay, let's go back to 9-1. Do I have a motion to approve the list of bills as presented?
Can I have a discussion about that?
No, I need a first and a second.
Yeah, I got it.
Mrs. Woodring, second. Mr. Nascimento. Any questions?
I have a question. I guess my question really is, Stuart, can you address some of the questions that were addressed by the audience about this topic? Is there a way that we can do that, or is that something we need to wait and give answers in writing next month?
I think it's the wish of the board, really. If you want to, it's more efficient and effective to do them in writing because he may not have all the information right in front of him.
Prepared to answer a question on one bill out of a whole list of bills.
Yeah. I'm sure we have answers to some of those, but we may not have answers to all of them. We'd prefer to do it in writing. If you want us to answer what we can now, we can.
Any other questions for Mr. Whiteleather? All in favor?
I was just, Herb, you wanted that broken out. I was wondering the
That's
reasoning.
right.
We're going to break it out because of the bill that was submitted through my company, through the school district, which, to be honest with you, I don't even remember what it was for.
Flowers.
Quite possibly. So, I think I'll probably will abstain on the vote on that, just to make, so it's okay.
Cleaner.
Make it cleaner. All right. And I'll get a copy of that bill if anybody wants to see it, because I don't even remember what it was for either, so.
All in favor? All opposed? Those abstaining?
One abstention.
Okay, the motion carries 7-1. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to 9/11, the appointment of special counsel.
Can we do 13, 12, 11, do that one last?
I'm sorry, do 11 last?
Yeah, out of the three of them?
Sure.
If you'd like to.
Thank you.
We'll move on to 9/12 then. Do I have a motion to appoint Sweet Stevens, Katzen Williams as special counsel for matters regarding public services, special ed, and student disability-related matters, collective bargaining, and assigned counsel matters in accordance with their fee agreement? Do I have a motion? Mr. Nascimento? Do I have a second? Mrs. Shackelford? Any comments? All in favor? 8-0, motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to 9/13. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of the law firm Deschel, Bartle, and Dooley as solicitor for Methacton School District? Mrs. Barone? Second, Mr. Phillips? Any questions or comments? All in favor? 8-0, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll move.
You want to have Frank join us?
Sure. You have to work now, Frank.
Come on up.
No, you can sit down. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
We'll get you a name tag by next month.
That's quite all right, but I'd like to thank the board for the vote of confidence, and we'll certainly do an excellent job for you as we try to do for all of our clients. Thank you.
We know you will. Thank you. Okay, so we have one more appointment of special counsel, and that's 9/11. Do I have a motion to approve the appointment of John Ellison of Reed Smith as special insurance counsel for the Moloch Van Horn and Methacton School District litigation? Do I have a motion? Mr. Jones? Do I have a second? Mrs. Shackelford? Okay, any comments? Okay, we'll start with Mr. Nascimento.
So, Dr. Miller, I just was concerned about Mr. Ellison's fee, and I know he said that he'll be the associates and the paralegals will be doing the lion's share of the work. But do we have any? And maybe this is difficult. I know it's difficult to have, but do we have any kind of breakout percentage? Do we know what we're getting into with this? How much time he's going to spend versus his associates?
I do not. I would like to know that from him. I didn't, like I said, I just got the rates today, but I need to talk to him more about that. I need to find out just how much time. He didn't think it would be a lot of time, and he said the lion's share would be handled by his associate. I'm not sure what that means yet, so I need to find that out. Certainly we need to keep a handle on this. This case is getting expensive enough, and I'm going to spend more. He didn't think he would need to do a lot. That's all I told him.
Is it necessary to approve it this month, or can we table it until you get more information and approve it next month?
Well, there's a hearing scheduled next month, and that's the problem. These petitions are going to a hearing, and he needs to review them and advise us prior to that. And that's my concern. It was originally scheduled for just after the 4th, and he's asked to have that delayed, and I think it's been delayed to like the 3rd or 4th of July, so sometime in July. We may have a board meeting before then, but I'm not sure. I can ask him to do all that work in a couple of days. So.
Okay, I'll start. I have probably a list of about 5 things. I'll start with last week when we discussed this firm, this attorney. One of the things I thought it would be nice is for the board to be actually able to talk to the guy, interview him. Also suggested we put an RFI out. What was brought to my attention, which disturbs me the most, is on 6/18, and the court closes at 4:15 that day, he entered his appearance on our behalf. We didn't take board action yet to hire the guy, and he filed his appearance. We also gave him documents to a case which is sealed by the court. Okay, our solicitor at the time never informed us that this case was ever sealed, that we can't talk about it outside the district or outside our executive session. I have lots of concerns with a firm that was given to us by our counsel who was representing us and suggested these people for a conflict attorney just to make sure that they are doing a good job for us and make sure our exposures are covered. You know, that's like saying, well, I'm going to have my friend be the referee in this sport. So I would like to see, you know, an RFI go out, a suggestion from someone other than the counsel that he's supposed to be checking up on. I mean, so far he said, well, it's not going to cost much time. I don't see many problems. Well, I want to know what our exposures are. Did they follow the proper procedures? Because all along we were told different things. They didn't come to fruition. And I want to make sure that they were doing the best job for Methacton. So as far as this vote tonight, I can't vote for this guy. You know, he wasn't, the process is flawed big time. And the fact that he entered his appearance without us even taking a vote to hire the guy, I have a problem. I want to know who told him to go enter his appearance.
He indicated that there was a hearing scheduled for, I think, July 2nd, and he said, we need to try and get that delayed. So I said, go ahead and try and get that delayed for us. That was his appearance, so he could do that, because he said otherwise, nobody's going to get to look at these things before they file. Now, maybe the process is flawed because of Sweet Stevens not letting us know in time that we need to do this. I don't know. All I know is we were coming up on a process that was going to potentially harm us, and we needed somebody to...
Well, and this goes back to the whole reason a year and a half ago I started complaining about the quality of service rather than bills and stuff, so on. I mean, because
I'm trying to tell you why that happened.
I know, and that even goes back to more saying that I want counsel representing us that is going to make sure that that firm was representing us properly, and here we are. Our backs are up against the wall timing. We're making a hasteful decision just to out of haste because, you know, we have a July 2nd hearing coming up.
Well, I think it's been moved back.
I have a couple things I wanted to ask. Since this, well, I have two questions. First question, since we seem to have so many attorneys doing so many different things these days, and now we've just appointed a new solicitor, can we have the solicitor take care of this situation since they're not one of the either firms that are representing the actual insurance companies? Can't we just go with the firm we're already hiring? I mean, is that something that...
And I asked Eric about this, and I thought he said because of...
Maybe a specialization.
Well, that's what I'd like to know.
I'm not familiar with that, so I really don't know. I'm generally familiar with it, but not
I
specifically.
asked Eric about it, and I'm pretty sure he said, but we even asked him about it when he met with us that night.
That goes back to the matter of, Eric came in, and I asked him if he was representing our board. And he was at one point, and then he was fired by Dr. Quinn and Reba. The board never took action. That's why I want to know where the minutes were that showed us where we took action to hire them, or did Tim and Reba went out and hired them on their own without board action, and did we fire them without board action? And so once again, so that was my concern. As far as asking Mr. Bartle's firm to do it now, I wouldn't ask. I'd still ask for a suggestion of who would be best counsel for representing us there. Because if I was them, and thank you. If I was them, there's something that they were in the beginning stages and they were able to see all the procedures, how they were filed, how the case was worked. Now for them to go back and get caught up, you know, that's where the expense is going to be, is these guys have to get caught up now. So that goes back to the other problem I had with our representation at the time a year and a half ago when I was asking for this day to come. So.
And there's certainly some truth to that, but you're going to have to hire an attorney and they're going to have to get caught up. You don't have a choice in that. At some point, you need to hire somebody to do this review of those insurance filings, because somebody needs to protect your interests.
So then can we check to see if that's something our solicitor can do? And then the other thing goes to piggyback on what you just said. All the back time that's going to go into this, all the research time and all the information that has to happen, is there a way that we can... I know I asked this last week, but I still think that there has to be a way that we can ask Sweet Stevens if they can cover the cost of us having to pay another attorney to get their information.
That's never gonna happen.
Well, you know what, we all say never, but you don't know until you ask. So I guess that's kind of a...
I'll be happy to ask.
I mean, I kind of think that we're kind of being put in a spot.
I don't know what the answer's going to be, but
Well, and I have a quick question on this. Basically, the urgency of this appointment of John Ellison and of Reed Smith is because of this hearing that's coming up in July.
each insurance company has filed a petition, and there's a hearing on those filings. And what we were informed by Sweet Stevens is, at this point now, each of the attorneys that you were paying are now being paid by the insurance companies. So in order to make sure your interests are protected, you need someone to make sure those filings protect your interests and that they don't just protect the interests of the insurance companies.
Correct.
That was the purpose.
Okay, so our back is against the wall, like Jim said regarding this. Are we able to appoint this firm for a certain time period? Or just go in and appoint to get us through this hurdle, and then do what Jim said, and let's look into our other options.
I would say that's we could probably do whatever we want, but I think advice from our counsel.
Right, you're gonna
exactly, but
$5 an hour to read the file, and you're gonna pay someone else X to read the file again.
But if the July 2nd date was moved to August or something like that, then we have enough time to.
It was moved to later in July. I don't know. We can ask them to see if there's a potential for moving it again.
When is the next board hearing, and how does that
The next board meeting?
Yeah, and how does that line up with,
We have a meeting July 16th, so it would be possible to do an appointment that night. I'm a little worried about telling this guy to stop what he's doing if he can't get that hearing moved again.
So we don't know when the hearing is, is what it's saying. It's somewhere
Off the top of my head, it's late July. Could we do this? Appoint him, and Frank and I talk, maybe talk with this guy, find out when that hearing is in the situation, and if it sounds like Frank's got another suggestion, we can always tell the guy to stop. And come back with another.
yeah, I would suggest, I mean, since he already has his appearance entered at this point, and since he's working on it actively at this point, without board action, it seems to me that you can hold off on this vote because things will continue to go the way that they are right now, and then perhaps you and I can speak tomorrow morning on this and we can intervene. But we can't intervene if the board takes action to appoint him, because that obviously is that's right. So maybe the best thing for you to do right now is nothing with respect to...
Well, just table
it and allow us to speak tomorrow and see what recommendation we come up with.
But we're still going to wind up paying him for his time.
We are.
His rates.
You are, because that's happening right now before this evening, as I understand it, if that's correct.
But at some point after we talk, we could tell him to stop.
Yes.
That the board tabled the motion and did not appoint him, we would stop, we wouldn't pay anything beyond that.
But the reality is the majority of the cost is probably being incurred now is to keep up to speed so that, when the associates do the lion's share of the work, he can review and give comment and answer that.
And we could talk about that, and we could talk to him about what his estimated time is.
What's the risk of us not being ready for this hearing?
There may be no risk. If that's the thing, your interest may not be at risk at this point, but they may be,
It's like the cost avoidance thing, okay? The potential is what?
Potential is, I don't know. The potential is that you don't get thrown out of the case. I believe that's the potential. And then one or more of the insurance companies do.
Back to the problem is that we have insurance companies that we pay who are supposed to be working for us, who now are not potentially working for us.
But we don't know that.
Well, but that is the potential.
That is the potential.
And they don't want to necessarily follow this thing through to the end. So the money that we paid that is our deductible, which was supposed to be all we were going to pay, is not all we were going to pay. So we have a lawsuit that's going to continue to grow, and fairly quickly if one particular person works on it a lot. Yeah, we can't ignore it.
All of what you've said is correct. My recommendation, though, that you not take action at this point is because you do have someone who is working on the file and would reward that. If Dr. Miller and I were to review this matter tomorrow or the next day and come to a decision that we felt that we'd better move it someplace else, we wouldn't be bound by a board vote to keep it until the 16th of July at that location.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and I know that's not a wonderful solution, but we're here tonight, and we got to deal with the facts that are before us tonight.
But then, exigent need of what we're working on, we can't let things sit. We have to come up with answers.
I'm here tonight for the first time, and I'll take care of it in the morning with Dr.
Welcome.
Thank you. No problem. Yes.
Okay, so do I have a motion to table item 911, appointment of special counsel? Mr. Nascimento, second. Mr. Phillips. All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Okay, let's see. We are down at 9:14, the final budget adoption. Do I have a motion to approve the general fund budget of the Methacton School District for the 2013-14 fiscal year in the amount of $95,248,073, requiring a millage of 27.33 and an increase in property tax of 1.85? I need a motion. Mr. Roth. Do I have a second? Mr. Jones. Any comments? No comments on the budget?
I have a comment. This budget has been sliced and diced in every which way that we can think of. And we're getting down to the point where we cut all the low-hanging fruit last year. Now we're trimming the branches. And I want to commend Dr. Miller and Stewart for going through this thing and trying to cut out as much as we could. Try to get that increase down as much as we can. I mean, we started out at 293 or something like that, and down to 185. I personally want to see Methacton continue to be a strong school district and not sacrifice the way our kids are being educated. It's getting increasingly harder to do that. This is my 4th year on the board, going through these budgets. It's not easy. And as Mr. Earnshaw pointed out, there's a lot of things on there that are, questionable. Problem is some of those things we have to do. We don't have a choice. We have to reserve that money for Shenandoah. The fund balance had to be used in order to keep that tax rate down. Do I like it? Absolutely not. In fact, I do not want to use fund balance at all. In fact, fund balance should be going up, 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 up. And hopefully we can get to that point. But as I've preached before from this microphone, you can't do much when you have a state government that is not acting on the core of the problem. Peter's contribution rates are out of control. If they keep going the way they are, you're going to have school districts going bankrupt because they can't keep up with it. There's only just so much that you can do, and unfortunately, the 9 board members here in Methacton we have to bear the brunt of it because we have to pass a budget. We also have to pass a budget before the state has to pass their budget. So we're passing a budget without knowing exactly what the state's budget's going to be and what kind of contributions they're going to give to the school districts. It's all backwards to me. So what am I supposed to do? I've got 2 kids in the school district, both excelling, doing very well, getting a great education. I'm very pleased with how they're being taught. Don't necessarily agree with all the curriculum, but that's another story for another day. The budget we have in front of us, I don't know what else we can do without starting to really tear it apart. I mean, really tear it apart. And we're at the point now where we're going to have to start sacrificing school programs. That's where we're at. There's not much left to do. The technology, we're holding back on some of our infrastructure replacements. Some of those switches are 10 years old plus. That's dangerously old. If some of those switches go down, yeah, sure, we may have a backup or 2 in the closet, but we don't have a lot. We want to keep the technology rolling in the classrooms. We want to, do a lot of things. We want to do all these things. We want to get more software. We want to get more curriculum that uses these new technologies, uses those smart boards. But guess what? It costs money to do that. Personally, I'd be willing to pay 1.85% increase in my taxes to keep where we're at now. It's next year that I really worry about, and the year after that. Because I don't know how much more, we can cut. It's going to get to the point where our kids' education is now going to start to be seriously affected, unless something is done in Harrisburg. And Joyce, reading our legislative report, you're hearing it right there, that there's problems. The governor's not getting things done that he wants to get done, and for good reason, because some of those bills are not good. So, anyway, the budget is what it is, and I do believe we're under a deadline to approve this. It has to be done. We have to have a budget in place by July 1st. State law mandates this. So, we are where we are.
Any other comments this evening on the budget? Mr. Nascimento.
I did want to echo one thing that Herb said. I do think that we owe some thanks to the administration. It's been a difficult few months for the district and for the administration, and particularly coming on board. We appreciate everything that both of you and the whole team did to get the budget where it is. I don't think anyone at the table or in the audience or in the district is happy with the number. I think there are real challenges, particularly around fund balance. We all read the credit rating, the agency's report, where they specifically call out our need to grow the fund balance. These are things we have to measure, and growing the fund balance means cutting certain things. It means raising taxes. It means doing things that we don't want to do and that we've heard from the public that the public doesn't want done. So we're in a bit of a conundrum. I think that the administration has done great work in cutting all the fat out of this. I think that there are going to be some challenges going forward, but I think that at this point we've done the best that we can do with this.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? I have a prepared statement. Before we take the final vote on the budget tonight, I too would like to extend my thanks to all that participated in bringing this budget before us. This was a particularly challenging year. Although I feel like I say this every year, this year the two key individuals who started the budget process didn't finish the budget process. Dr. Miller and Mr. Whiteleather had to complete a budget that they inherited halfway through the process. There was much catching up to do before they could even begin to determine where cuts would be made to get us down to an acceptable number. So my special thanks to you, Dr. Miller, and you, Mr. Whiteleather. While there was an article in today's Philly Inquirer reporting that 55% of respondents to a poll regarding school funding in Pennsylvania indicated that they would be willing to support increasing the state sales tax and the income tax in order to restore lost state aid, I don't want to do that, and I don't want you to have to do that. I believe the tax increase of 1.85% is modest enough so that we can maintain the high quality of education here at Methacton and not overly burden our community. I was truly a proponent of a no tax increase until the board asked Dr. Miller to show us where we would have to cut to attain it. There were programs that would have to be eliminated that I believe would severely disrupt the educational process. Our kids would suffer significantly. Budgeting in the future is going to require an entirely new approach. We can't continue to operate the same way we have in the past and expect different results. The board has demonstrated this year how carefully we examine any new or large requests for funds. Additionally, you've heard me speak of an advocacy program. I'd like to get that off the ground this coming school year, and I'm going to be looking to concerned individuals to lend a hand with this program. So that all having been said, I do support the 1.85% tax increase. I support our administrators and all the hard work that they put into this year's budget. I support our professional teaching staff and appreciate all the amazing work that they do here. And finally, I support all of our support staff that enables the Methacton School District to continue to deliver a quality education that our community can be proud of. All right. All in favor of approving the final budget? All opposed? Motion carries 7-1. Thank you. Okay, one last item under fiscal items is 9.15, taxes for the 2013-14 year. Do I have a motion to approve items 1 through 7 under item number 9.15? Motion, Mr. Roth. Second. Mrs. Barone. All in favor? Any comments? All in favor? Motion carries 8-0.
It's premature. I was going to say something, but
So are you voting yes or no?
I'm a no.
You're a no. Okay. Motion still carries 7-1. Okay, let's move on to personnel items. Mr. Harney.
Yes, this evening we have 2 furloughs professional for your approval this evening. We have 1 resignation professional, 1 resignation classified. We have 10 professional employments this evening. We have 11 employment of our summer temporary help. We have 5 employment summer temporary help from our students. 10.10 change of status administrative. We're asking your approval this evening to approve Mrs. Jennifer Brucker former coordinator of staff development to principal at Eagleville Elementary School. We have a change of status professional. We have 2 of those. We have 1 change of status classified, 3 uncompensated leave professional, 2 uncompensated leave classified. We're asking for the approval of the extended pay for season 2013 as listed. We're asking the approval for the attached list of employees for the extended school year this summer. We're asking for the approval of the list of community education instructors. We're asking your approval for the substitutes as listed. And we have 9 advisements as well this evening.
Okay, why don't we do this, unless there's any objections? I would like a motion under personnel items 10.1 through 10.9, and 10.11 through 10.0. Do I have a motion to approve those items? Mr. Jones, do I have a second? Mr. Nascimento? Any questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment about 10.1, the furloughs. I just want to point out that this is not something I really want to approve. It's something that we have to do, which piggybacks right back on that budget that we're doing. This is where we are, and this is not this is not a pleasant vote for any of us. I mean, I wish we didn't have to do any of this, but unfortunately, with the way things are with our budget, that's what we have to do. So even though I'm going to have to vote for it, it's not something I am pleasant about.
Any additional comments or questions?
Yes, 10.4, I'll just pull the first one out just as an easy example. It says it's a replacement position. You're starting at step 2. And I know it varies through the course of people. Are these people that were currently working for us that are taking these replacement jobs? How's this all coming down?
Most of these people, if not all, I didn't look through all of them to comment on that comment, but if they were long-term subs with us, they get placed on the step that they would have been had they been hired from day one. So Adam Chantry, I'm just pulling out step 4. He was a long-term sub for us for the past 3 years, so he starts on step 4 and so forth. So if they're on an additional step, it's either because they came to us with experience or they have experience with the school district.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Okay, then moving back to 10.10. Do I have a motion to approve a change of status for Jennifer Brucker from Coordinator of Staff Development to Principal at Eagleville Elementary School? Mrs. Barone, do I have a second? Mr. Jones? Any comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Congratulations, Jen is with us tonight.
I'd like to welcome Mrs. Brucker and her family here this evening. Welcome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Okay, let's move on to programs, Dr. Miller.
We have 3 textbook adoptions. They've been on your agenda before. They've been sitting for 30 days, so people can review them if they want. We have 2 gifts and donations. A gift of 6 guitars from Back Music Boosters and a gift of $5,000 to the football team from the Back Football Parents Club, purchasing some uniforms. We have 2 field trips for you to approve and the extension to the agreement for the school resource officer. This is the resource officer at our Colwyn.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve items 11.1 through 11.4 under programs? Mr. Nascimento, do I have a second? Mr. Phillips? Any comments or questions?
I think the girls' basketball team is meeting out better than the boys' wrestling team. Wilmington and Winters, lovely.
I tend to agree with you, Mr. Nascimento. All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you. Moving on to policy, Dr. Miller.
We have several policies for first reading, 3 policies, second reading, and the merged policies. We can talk to you about all the policies that are merged. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the second reading policies as presented? Mrs. Shackelford, do I have a second? Mrs. Woodring? All in favor? Any comments? I'm sorry. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Thank you. And other, Dr. Miller?
I would just point out on your dates for board members' calendars, there's 14-2. There's a mistake there. It's not that July 16th meeting will actually be at the high school because it's better for presentations, and that's going to be the Fields presentation night, so that work session will be at the high school at 7 p.m. And we'll properly advertise it, but just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, and I'll just note the other meetings on July 16th is a policy committee meeting. Oh, actually, the policy committee meeting's been canceled for July. And on July 23rd, we'll again be here at the high school for a property committee meeting and then our regular school board meeting. Okay, do I have any old business from the board?
I do.
Yes.
And I'd like to clear the air under Mr. Andrews' accusation of nepotism. Let me enlighten you on what that bill was for. I took a couple seconds and looked through the bills here, and I found out, reminded me what that was. The bill was for $192.14. It was for a class that I volunteered to teach at the Worcester Environmental Club. I taught kids how to make cute little succulent terrarium gardens with Wendy Keller. I did it over a 2-day period out of my own time, away from my own business, and I made them each take a bowl. We filled it with soil mix. We taught them how to plant these cute little succulent plants. They landscaped it with rocks and stones and things like that, made a nice little desert scene. And that was the cost of the plants and the materials. I billed to the Worcester Home and School at my cost for $192.14. I donated all the extra decorations of the stones out of my own, from my flower shop, and billed the district as such. And as if you know, all district funds now from Home and School are now paid through the Facton School District. So that's what that is for. I would appreciate you, sir, if you would direct any questions you have regarding my business or my function on this board to me directly before you make an accusation like that in public. Not only does it put the onus on me, but on all the other board members here, and it creates an air of uncomfortable attitudes. I don't appreciate it. Every meeting you come up here and state your business up there, which is your right, and I am wholly for it. But for you to make an accusation of that to me is uncalled for. I do not appreciate that. I'm not the board president, I was the vice president, and on many times I bit my tongue because you know what, you have a right to say what you want to say at that podium. But when you start accusing somebody of something that is not true without looking into the facts and doing your homework and doing nothing but causing a ruckus, I take personal offense to that, sir. I will not stand for it. And if I ever have to deal with this again, we will be having words on the side. I will not put up with it. Okay? If anybody ever has anything they need to talk to me about as a board member, my doors are always open. Email there, phone numbers, I'm in the book. Look me up. I have nothing to hide. One of my goals when I got elected to this board was to have total transparency, and that's what it's about. And I'm getting sick and tired of you coming up here and trying to frame us on stuff that is totally bogus. If you want a copy of the bill, I'll be glad to give you one. I'll email it to you tomorrow morning. So stop it.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Any other old business? Any new business? Okay, courtesy of the floor. This is your opportunity to comment on anything that you would like to the board.
Candy Oliver, Agaville. Mr. Roth, I took up I heard you twice state that your door's always open to email you. I did send you an email. I got no response whatsoever. It was totally ignored. It was a number of months ago when you made some comments about the transportation department and school buses, and I sent you an email stating about the school buses that I watch ride by my house at least twice a day to Arcola, and how most of them are half empty. And I invited you over to my home at 8 o'clock in the morning for a cup of coffee to see what I was talking about, because you stated about the busing. Now, I stated in my email what I see on a daily basis from my front porch. And I got no response. It was totally ignored. So I take that personally, that you ignored my email.
You sent that email to me and several other board members. Go on.
I sent it to Donna Coons, because that's what we're told to do, to send in. Well, what happens when it gets to her, I don't know. But, I mean, twice I've heard you say this, that your door's open to call you to send you an email, and I took you up on it, and it was ignored. So maybe I'm a little insulted. I understand you're upset by Mr. Andrews' comments, but I also stood here and questioned checks that were sent to home and school that were a lot of money. And Mr. McCall graciously answered that, because I looked at the list of bills. There is no explanation. And as taxpayers, we should question where our money's going. And maybe you could have handled it different, I don't know. I would have asked the same question. As far as, I mean, I understand Mr. Roth was talking about the budget and what it costs to teach. I grew up in an era where the teachers didn't make the money they make today, and a really good teacher can teach a child anything. We see it done in Philadelphia. They're in really bad shape. I don't feel we, as a school district or taxpayers, should help fix their problems in Philly. We need to fix our problems here. I'm not happy with the budget. I know a lot of other people aren't happy with the budget. I haven't heard that the board worked very hard on the budget. I'm sure you have. I've heard other school districts say their board has worked hard. I commend Mr. Whiteleather and Dr. Miller for bringing it down. I see the cuts you made. I think maybe there could have been a few more cuts, but I'm just a taxpayer and I have nothing to say about it. But as far as, we have a lot of attorneys that we're hiring. This is a lot of money. I mean, I have a suggestion for some of these lawsuits. Maybe you should just settle them. Do whatever you have to do, make them go away and stop. And we won't have to pay these attorneys. But I think that the one, he's kind of expensive, I would think. And I mean, I'm glad to see Mr. Bartle sitting there. Welcome. It's nice to see an attorney sitting there to answer any legal questions, and I think that was a very smart move, hiring your law firm. So, again, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments this evening? Yes, sir.
Ron Evans, Worcester Township. On the brighter side, believe it or not, I'm going to try to get you away from that nastiness that just happened. I have two pictures here that I would like to pass to the school board, and then I will explain what they are.
This is a family show.
Just quick look at them and pass them down. I'm sure as you pass them down, I didn't hear anything very much on the lights tonight on the football field, but I assume that it's still in progress and you are moving along with it with the township. Okay. What's that? The pictures you see are from the Wissahickon School District. My grandson graduated from there, and that's the graduation last week, held outside. I'm sure you all recognize the caps, the gowns, the administrators, the superintendents, and the public. I wanted to show you one thing on there you may not recognize. The big, tall metal lights. They are football lights which we do not have. Wissahickon is a much smaller district than ours, but they do have lights. So I'm just trying to encourage you to get the lights before it's too late. But they are lights, believe it or not.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And the reason that we have moved next month's work session to the high school is because we're going to have an update on the lights and the turf project. So you probably don't want to miss that.
Under the lights.
Okay, yes, Mr. Andrews.
John Andrews, Lower Providence. I get the picture that Mr. Roth was furious. It's curious that this evening, or coincidental, I should say, that one of the policies you voted on was nepotism. Mr. Roth also said that he submitted the bill to Home and School, and I don't think this is a Home and School meeting tonight, so, maybe the Home and School should have, checked perhaps with you before they turned the bill over to the school district. I want to commend you for going into the school and teaching about terrariums. That is fantastic. I think that, so, by your admission that you submitted the bill to the Home and School, maybe there was some consideration that wasn't, you chose not to put that on the list of bills. This is not a Home and School meeting, I think that there might be some merit in that situation for you to have said that was a charitable contribution and paid for it out of your own money. You didn't charge for your time. So I don't feel that I was hitting on you in saying that that was a curious bill to be on the list of bills, and I asked for an explanation, and you did abstain. So, I think, let's stop making a mountain out of a molehill. Thank you.
I think you misunderstand it a little bit, Mr. Andrews. The only way that Home and School can pay their bills is through the district.
That's right.
So therefore, there was no district money spent on the bill in question. The only way it was a donation from Home and School.
To us.
To us.
And then we pay the bill.
Any other courtesy of the floor comments?
10 minutes are left.
Okay. Moving on to communications, Mrs. Lynch.
Since the school year ended, the students and teachers have given way to hundreds of campers, attending programs ranging from the arts and music to credit recovery and acceleration at the high school. All this is evidence of a robust use of facilities and a strong community education program in our district. Graduation took place in June, and it was a beautiful night for our graduates. I encourage everyone to visit the website and learn more about their many accomplishments, and including a recent addition, which is a list of the colleges attended by the class of 2013. The list features some of the most prestigious colleges and universities in the country, including Carnegie Mellon, Cornell, Johns Hopkins, and the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you, as well as Widener and Penn State.
Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Phillips, do I have a second? Mr. Nascimento? Yes. All in favor? We're adjourned. Good evening.
6